Today we hear from the father of the Constitution himself, James Madison, Jimmy Mad. Oh, and I'm sure Jimmy would be mad if he heard how Robert Brown and the John Birch Society spreads lies about him. You are about to see Brown use these deceitful tactics against Madison to make it appear that Madison is claiming the exact opposite of what he wrote in Federalist 40. But hey, this is par for the course for people associated with the John Birch Society and the ones that spread their lying propaganda. Not only does Brown completely twist Madison's words and take them out of context, but he claims that Madison admits to their delusion of a runaway convention. Remember I told you how these anti-federalists of today are trying to silence the voice of the American people to protect the establishment by preventing the states from using their check against our corrupt and out-of-control federal government? This is a perfect example of how they will go to any length to lie in order to create a fear of a runaway convention. Coming up, proof number 4, answering Robert Brown's $10,000 challenge. Brown, it's time to pay up. Show me the money. Welcome to All Things Article 5, where we dive deep into the Constitution's amending provision to break through all of the misinformation out there and get to the truth. Whether you're an Article 5 activist like myself, or new to this subject and just want to learn more, this is the place to be. I guarantee you will learn a lot, so don't miss an episode. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and please share with your friends. A lot of people need to hear this, especially state legislators. So sit back and join me as we learn from the past, get engaged in the present in order to change the future. Now, we're continuing to debunk the lies spewed by groups like the John Birch Society and Robert Brown, who claimed that the 1787 Federal Convention did not have the authority to propose the Constitution. I know, you're probably saying right now, Ken, come on, man, you're beating a dead horse here because we've already proved it beyond a shadow of a doubt. What, we've looked at James Wilson, we've proved it with, Rufus King, Charles Pinckney. How many do we have to do? It's time to move on. Well, we're going to move on. We're going to move on to one of the #1 authorities on this. And trust me, I hear you. We want to do other issues. I get that. But I am first and foremost a constitutionalist and a defender of the men that gave us the greatest governing document conceived by the mind of man. But I'm also a capitalist. And if there's an easy way to make 10 grand, I'm going to take it. We'll be moving on to other issues soon, but I got to tell you, I'm having a lot of fun, and I hope you are too. So please do me a favor so that we can move on to other things. Share this video on Facebook, everywhere you can, and the other proofs that I've done on Wilson and King and Pinckney. And in your post, I want you to write this and tag Robert Brown and say, Robert Brown, you owe Ken Quinn $10,000 for answering your challenge. And make sure you get this out there. I just want to seal the deal on this and just prove to all of you that the John Birch Society and Mr. Brown, they're just today's anti-federalists. They have no intention of understanding the truth. They just want to spew this fear. So let's move on, and I think you're going to enjoy this episode. I'm really torn also. I don't know if I should share with you Madison's claims first or Brown's. Let me think about this. All right, we're going to start with Brown because he misrepresents Madison. I just want you to see that first. In Federalist 40, this is going to just blow your mind. This is one that is going to make you upset. Watch this.
And in Federalist 40, James Madison addresses the charge against them that you overstepped your bounds, you exceeded your authority. This was a runaway convention, the anti-federalists said. In Federalist 40, James Madison doesn't refute those claims. He admits them.
You heard him. I'm not making this up. He said Madison admitted that the convention was a runaway. See, I told you so. We'll be going through his points in another episode. There is only enough time to cover one line at a time. He gives us a lot of material, trust me. Now here is John McManus of the John Birch Society talking about Federalist 40, and notice how he actually adds words to the quote by Madison.
Now, In Essay 40 of the Federalist Papers, Madison said, the authority given to conduct the Philadelphia Convention of 1787 was limited and was for the sole and express purpose of revising the Articles of Confederation. He said that in the Federalist Papers. But my point is that Madison himself said that the purpose of the 1787 convention, the sole and express purpose, was to revise the Articles of Confederation. Right? They exceeded the mandate.
You see, Brown and McManus like to talk about the framers, and they will lift a quote out of context for their PowerPoint slides. But they will never share the full text or the context of these quotes. It is so blatant and obvious that anyone with a little bit of critical thinking skills and curiosity can easily figure out. Alrighty, drum roll please. Here is the $10,000 proof, number 4, from none other than the man himself. You know him, you love him, you trust him. James Madison from Virginia, the father of the Constitution. Surely, Robert Brown is going to take the words of Mr. Madison, the man that documented almost in its entirety the debates in Philadelphia during the long, hot summer months in 1787. A very quick bio on James Madison. He was a delegate from Virginia to the Confederation Congress, member of the U.S. House of Representatives, United States Secretary of State, and the 4th President of the United States. We are going to go short and sweet with Mr. Jimmy here because we will be hearing so much from him in future episodes that I don't want to have you get sick of him too soon. So here we go. Number 1. James Madison was a delegate to the Annapolis Convention of 1786, which was called by his state of Virginia and was strictly limited to the issue of commerce. Number 2, the following month in October, the Virginia legislature issued the official call of the 1787 convention in response to the report from the Annapolis Convention, which provided the scope or the powers of the convention, which are as follows, quote, whereas the commissioners who assembled at Annapolis have represented the necessity of extending the revision of the federal system to all its defects, to concur in such farther concessions and provisions as may be necessary to secure the great objects for which that government was instituted, and to render the United States as happy in peace as they have been glorious in war. To assemble in convention at Philadelphia as above recommended, and to join them in devising and discussing all such alterations and farther provisions as may be necessary to render the federal Constitution adequate to the exigencies of the Union, unquote. Now, number 3, 5 months later, Madison wrote to Thomas Jefferson stating his plan for a new system of government. Quote, I think myself that it will be expedient in the first place to lay the foundation of the new system in such a ratification by the people themselves of the several states as will render it clearly paramount to their legislative authorities, unquote. Number 4, James Madison, acting under his commission, drafted a new system of government known as the Virginia Plan, which was set forth in 15 resolutions and was introduced by Virginia Governor Edmund Randolph on the first working day of the convention on May 29th. And number 5, after the convention adjourned, Madison writes Federalist 40 specifically to refute the charge by the Anti-Federalists that the convention exceeded its authority. The title of Federalist 40 is, quote, the powers of the convention to form a mixed government examined and sustained, unquote. We will look deeper into Federalist 40 in a future episode. For now, let's just get down to the business at hand. To begin his argument that the convention had full authority to form this new system of government, he appeals to the commissions from the state legislatures. All of them reference the Annapolis recommendation, and 3 of them also include the recommendation of Congress.
James Madison, Federalist 40. The second point to be examined is whether the convention were authorized to frame and propose this mixed constitution. The powers the convention ought, in strictness to be determined by an inspection of the commissions given to the members by their respective constituents. As all of these, however, had reference either to the recommendation from the meeting at Annapolis in September 1786 or that from Congress in February 1787, it will be sufficient to recur to these particular acts. From these two acts it appears, first, that the object of the convention was to establish in these states a firm national government. Second, that this government was to be such as would be adequate to the exigencies of government and the preservation of the Union. Third, that these purposes were to be effected by alterations and provisions in the Articles of Confederation, as is expressed in the Act of Congress, or by such further provisions as should appear necessary, as it stands in the Recommendatory Act from Annapolis. Fourth, that the alterations and provisions were to be reported to Congress and to the states in order to be agreed by the former and confirmed by the latter. From a comparison and fair construction of these several modes of expression is to be deduced the authority under which the convention acted. They were to frame a national government adequate to the exigencies of government and of the Union, and to reduce the Articles of Confederation into such form as to accomplish these purposes.
In a nutshell, the convention had the authority to propose whatever was necessary to preserve the Union, not preserve the Articles of Confederation. He concludes his argument that the convention did not exceed its authority by stating,
"The sum of what has been here advanced and proved is that the charge against the convention of exceeding their powers, except in one instance, little urged by the objectors, has found no foundation to support it."
Boom! There you have it. From James Madison himself, the convention was 100% legit. He claimed he had the power. Now, that one instance that he mentioned was also completely and entirely fulfilled shortly afterwards and became a moot point, which I will cover in a future episode. And it had to do with first principles, which we have covered in previous ones, so you'll understand what I'm referring to. Madison said he had the power. Robert, surely you can come and admit now that your tactics are way over the top and just start being honest, can't you? You don't actually think you know more than James Madison, do you? Come on, man. Show me the money. I've proven that the authority was granted to the commissioners. They knew it and they acted upon it. Okay, so let me just wrap this up and just kind of put a cap to this episode. For those of you that have just joined us, what I'm doing in this series is proving Robert Brown wrong, because he has put out a challenge to anyone that can prove that any of the delegates believe they had the power and authority to propose the Constitution. And he's actually said he would give anyone $10,000 if they provided just one quote. Well, if you've been following this, we've provided a quote from James Wilson from Pennsylvania, Rufus King from Massachusetts, Charles Pinckney from South Carolina, James Madison himself from Virginia. And you know what? Wait till you see who I got next week. I'm saving the best for last. You are going to absolutely love this one. And Robert, if you are a man of your word, it's time to pay up. Show me the money. My Venmo account is still empty. Come on. You are wrong. It's time to admit it. If you are enjoying these videos, please like and share our All Things Article 5 on Facebook and with your friends. Oh, and if you like an episode, do me a big favor and hit the like button. Apparently, that gets more traction online and it just gets more views. So we want to get this out as quickly as we can to as many people as we can. And I would greatly appreciate getting the truth out there. So with All Things Article 5, I'm Ken Quinn. Experience must be our only guide. Fear will paralyze us. So fear not, let's have some fun, and the truth will prevail. Till next time.